It's the wonderful Peter Fleming!
Thank you very much, everybody. It's me, Peter Fleming. I'm back. It is wonderful to be with you all. You all remember me, I'm sure, or at the very least, I'm sure you'll be more than familiar with the classic children's television programs that I made for the BBC all through the 1960s and 70s. Mrs. Popjoy's Magic Attic. Yeah, Nicholas, the Mischievous Cupboard. Yes, release my crockery, you monster! Just for you, that was. It's wonderful to be with you here tonight. And I'm with you here this evening as part of a retrospective national tour of my work. It's been wonderful. Lately, I've been going all over the place talking to audiences like yourselves about my programs. I've been going up and down the Piccadilly line. Ever since I was evicted from my home 5 years ago, I've been wandering aimlessly through the tunnels. Now, this evening, I've got something very special to talk to you about. One of the best-loved children's television programs of all time. But before I do that, let's cast our minds back through the decades, and I can tell you all how my story really all began. Now, as a child, I was fascinated by television. Now, I grew passionate. This was what I wanted to do. So I went up to my father one day in his study. I was only 8 years old. And I went up to him, and I looked him in the eyes, and I said to him, "Father, I'm going to work in television." And he just laughed. Just like that. Gave me a winning smile. He was a very condescending man. And he said to me, "Peter, that sounds like a wonderful idea. But perhaps when you're older, eh? When you're older, indeed. What a thing to say to a boy." So naturally, I did what any enterprising young child would have done in that situation. I got up. I didn't say another word. I just left my father's study. I marched down the stairs. I stormed down. I was very angry, very cross. I went down the hall. And I went out of the front door. And I went out of our house. See, and I didn't look back. I just walked down the garden path, and I went down the road, and I kept walking, and never saw my family again. I did go back to visit them once when I was 11, but they moved away. So instead I went to the children's home. It was in our neighbourhood. I went up to the desk and I told a bit of a fib, actually. I went up to the lady and I told her that I was an orphan. But I was very lucky in the end because the place was so badly run, they never thought to check. So I was able to go on living there instead, well into my late 30s. And I saved up for a couple of odd jobs over the years and put together a makeshift studio and set some friends and neighbours to work on bits and pieces that I'd been writing, and over the years these were picked up by the BBC and broadcast to the nation's children. But I'm not going to talk to you about any of my own programmes this evening. I've got something rather special lined up. So tonight, any talk of Millie the steam-powered elephant or Freddie the door can wait for another time. I'm going to talk to you about a different programme, but one which I'm sure we'll all agree is a national institution, Blue Peter. Yes, you all see my badge. It's my very own. You earn fair and square, but I can't tell you how. Now, it's an institution, though, isn't it? It's 61 years old and still going strong. A lot of people are surprised when I say that. Is it really still on? It is. It's just not aimed at you anymore. But over those 61 years, there have been 38 different Blue Peter presenters, and over the years, either through hearsay or through working with them directly, I've picked quite a bit of gossip up about every single one. So what I thought I'd do as a special treat is spend the remainder of my time with you this evening just libeling them at random. And you might think to yourself, is it really libel? Surely it's slander if you're saying it out loud. No, I've written them down as well. I've really got one for every single one of them, so call out your favourite. We'll see how many we can get through. Who wants to go first? Connie Huck. Interesting thing about Connie Huck, she can extend her neck up to 2 miles long. It's true. That's why she never did that many challenges with the RAF parachute jumps and things, because whenever the door of the plane opened, she would just extend her neck outwards, down to the ground. She'd clamp her jaw onto something, very strong teeth, and then she just lowered herself to safety. It was very, very impressive in its own way, but it was cheating. Who else do we have next? Peter Purvis, then we'll do Matt Baker. Peter Purvis is the only Blue Peter presenter who can fly. It's true. He discovered he could do it when he was bored one day at Crufts. He was in his commentating booth and he just started flapping his arms absent-mindedly. Suddenly he was a foot off his chair. He had no idea he could do it. But he's always worried he'll get captured by the government in a big net and experimented upon. So he only shows it off to close friends in his garden. Who was that? Matt Baker did someone call out. Matt Baker is the only Blue Peter presenter to have shot me. Who should we have next? Anthea Turner, is that? Anthea Turner has 7 legs. somewhere in her house. My favourites of these are the ones you can really believe. What was that somebody else called out? Janet Ellis. Interesting. Janet Ellis is one of 5 Blue Peter presenters to have engaged Tom Baker in hand-to-hand combat. and crucially won. I mean, she was much younger than him at the time. It's very impressive. Who do we have next? What was that? Yvette Fielding was that. Yvette Fielding owns the world's largest collection of leeches. It's true. She walks around with them all inside her coat, either sucking on for dear life or she sews them in when they die. She goes around the neighbourhood flashing them at school children. Absolutely disgusting. Who else was that? We've had Peter Purvis. Zoe Salmon. I'll do Zoe Salmon because we haven't had her already. Zoe Salmon, a fully qualified US Marine. It's true. That's how she impressed the people who were producing, you see. You might remember the invasion of Iraq when there was a troop up on the statue of Saddam. Something like that was her. Incredible. I didn't realise either, but it's gospel. Who should we have next? Valerie Singleton once flogged a Girl Scout during camera rehearsals as a warning to the other guests. Incredible. Behave yourself, she shouted. They already were, Val. Who should we have next? I think we've time for maybe one more, perhaps? John Noakes. John Noakes was 50 feet tall. It's true. I mean, every time you see him on screen, you're actually witnessing a camera trick where they've asked him to stand at the far end of the studio to make him appear normal sized. It does mean that iconic film where he climbed Nelson's column was far less impressive than you'd think. But what was far more impressive, I would argue, was the fact they had to build a much larger Nelson's column to scale for all the close-ups. They lay it down like he was actually climbing it. I went up to Biddy Baxter, the editor. I went up to her and I said, Biddy, that's a remarkable bit of engineering you're doing there. That's wonderful. Why don't you make something about that? That's really interesting television. She said to me, who are you? It was a running joke she and I had over the years. It was wonderful to talk to you about all that. I've had a lot of fun. If there are any more you'd like to hear about, do just speak to me at the end, class. We'll be just outside for the next 2 or 3 nights, I expect. It's been wonderful to talk to her this evening, but I'm coming to the end of my time now. I can feel it. So it just leaves me to say thank you all very much for having me. My name's Peter Fleming. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Peter Fleming, wonderful stuff, man.